Illinois versus Purdue, last game of the season. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Locked On Illini. My name is Sunny Verma, your host here. Do me a favor, find me on your favorite social medias. It's Friday. None of you are actually working. You're scrolling your phone anyway, whether you're on X, whether you're on Twitter, well, same thing, Blue Sky, TikTok, Instagram, whatever app you're using while you're listening to this. Do a quick search for Locked On Illini. Just say hello. I'd love to hear your feedback. Again, I have conversations with you guys pretty much on a daily basis at this point, and I love to see that this community continues to grow. Today's episode is going to be slightly abbreviated, only because, Friday also happens to be game day, and Friday night, after the game, I'll be going live immediately, as I always do, hoping I get to celebrate with you guys, but, if things don't turn out the way we want, we'll have a little therapy session on a Friday night, if that's what it calls for. But I still felt like it's Friday morning. Let's just release something. I'll talk about what I want to see from this Illinois versus Purdue matchup. I'll be honest, I'm very curious what you guys want to see in this Illinois versus Purdue matchup. Which player needs to step up? Are you confident in this game? Let me know. Let me know in the comment section, in the chat. This is a game where, quite honestly, a lot of people pegged as being arguably the game that was going to decide the Big Ten Conference earlier in the season. Purdue was projected to finish first in the Big Ten Conference in the preseason media poll, and they are currently fifth. Illinois was projected to finish fourth in the Big Ten media poll, and they're currently seventh. So, if I'm doing the math correctly in my head, Purdue has been a bigger disappointment than Illinois this year because they're 4 spots down, whereas Illinois is only 3. So go ahead and let your Purdue friends know about that. All kidding aside, this is a matchup where I'm not sure what the implications are. You're talking about Big Ten tournament. I guess you're still fighting for seeding. Illinois, if they beat Purdue, won't be an 8 seed. But I think more important than the Big Ten tournament is what this could potentially mean for the NCAA tournament. I think if Illinois is able to take care of Purdue on Friday night, they can kind of be safe from that 8-9 slot once the brackets come out on Selection Sunday. And I can't talk about how important that's going to be. Look, we saw up close what a team like Duke looks like against Illinois. That was a 43-point drubbing, and I'd rather wait as long as possible before I have to face a Duke again, or an Auburn, or a Houston, or any of those 3 teams. Those 3 teams, I think, are a clear-cut tier, if not 2 tiers, above anyone else in college basketball this season. And I'd rather, if I have to face them in the second weekend, because that means Illinois will have made the Sweet 16. But that can only happen, at least I can say confidently, if Illinois is able to beat Purdue on Friday night. Now, I said this on yesterday's episode. Illinois, if I could pick one team or one game that I would want Illinois to win every single year, it would be the matchup against Purdue, right? You're talking about the 2 tentpole programs of the Big Ten Conference over the last 5-6 years. Purdue just broke the record for all-time wins in the last 5-6. Again, I forget the exact details. 5-6 years in a Big Ten Conference, and Illinois just released a graphic that showed that they're the only team in the last 6 seasons to finish above 500 each year. Clearly, again, the class of the conference over the last half decade. But if we're being honest, we're going to have a little confidential conversation amongst ourselves. Purdue has had Illinois' number essentially for a few years now. And that I know a lot of that has to do with Purdue having a generational center in Zach Edey, but quite honestly, other teams have beaten Purdue. It's just for whatever reason, Matt Painter has always kind of owned Brad Underwood. And it's something that we're kind of dealing with, but hopefully this year, something different might happen. It's a game where both teams, I think, come pretty confident. I think both fan bases, at least the temperature I've gotten from both fan bases, each one feels pretty confident. And if I'm Purdue fan, why not? Why wouldn't I be? Again, you've kind of owned Illinois the last couple of seasons, including having Braden Smith, a guy who last time I saw was injecting his veins or doing the sleepy gesture at State Farm Center last season. And, arguably the player of the year in the Big Ten Conference, potential All-American. And you have TKR, who's another potential All-American on that basketball team. And, again, Matt Painter seemingly has owned Brad Underwood. If you're Illinois, you're also feeling good about it because you just saw the drubbing that you put on the Michigan Wolverines, a Michigan team which at the time was tied for first place for the Big Ten Conference, a team that needed to win that game in order to have a chance to win the conference in its own right. But they didn't because Illinois dropped them by 20-plus points in Ann Arbor. And Michigan followed it up with another loss. So the streets are saying Illinois might have broken Michigan. But it all comes down to Friday. These two teams where Purdue, as I mentioned, it's the prep-driven, just pure college development program that Matt Painter has. And then you have the more dynamic, in my opinion, the higher ceiling team that Illinois has. I think this matchup is going to come down to Braden Smith, if I'm going to be honest. He's felt very cocky over Illinois the last couple seasons. He's continues to be one of the best players in the entire country. I don't think it's arguable. He's the best point guard in the country. And can they repeat what they have done on Friday night? For Illinois, I know I sound like a bigger KJ detractor than I really am. It's only because I hold him in such high regard that he's such an incredible player. But because I know, I just have a sinking feeling that Braden Smith might have a really good game, especially against the drop covers that Illinois tends to play, which is just, I'm hoping because between this big layoff between games, between Michigan and Purdue, you're talking about like 5 days, that Brad Underwood and that coaching staff is going to come up with an alternative defensive setup. Because if Illinois plays the traditional defense that they've played almost all season long against this Purdue team, against this Braden Smith character, I think Illinois might be in trouble. So let's just talk about Illinois specifically. I always talk about in these previews that more often than not, Illinois has the more talented starting five on the court. They have the more talented players on the court. That's not necessarily the case against Purdue. In fact, it's arguable Purdue might have the two best players on the court on Friday night. Braden Smith, I've already mentioned, TKR being the other one. Kasparis, for all his ups and downs, has more downs. And right now, I think that's why I'm going to be all eyes on him. If I'm going to be honest, all eyes on him for Michigan too. But he didn't really show up until the second half. And then Will Riley was able to kind of excel in the role that I predicted, or I was hoping Kasparis would. I don't know if that's going to happen against Purdue. This is going to be a hyped up game. The crowd's going to be into it. The Purdue side, for sure, those players, they understand the kind of rivalry that this has become over the years. The Illinois side, let's be honest, they may not quite recognize it just because they're new and they haven't been here before. DGL, of course, he's going to be all into it, and I'm sure he's going to try to have a big game. But a guy like Kasparis, this is probably the first feeling that he's going to have of his previous career playing basketball in Europe, in that type of atmosphere where, the opposing fans legit hate you. In this case, it's going to be our fans hating on Purdue, but again, the atmosphere is just going to be electric. And when this season's over and we, in the off season, I'm trying to come up with content, I'm going to have like a year in review about Kasparis Jakucionis, and I genuinely don't know how that's going to go. Because the highs have been so incredibly high and the lows have been just so incredibly low. He's in a lot of our losses. If you just simply look at the box score and you see the line that Kasparis Jakucionis dropped that particular day, who's supposed to be your best player, you can look at it and be like, oh yeah, of course, that's why Illinois lost. I'm hoping that we really get that Braden Smith and Kasparis Jakucionis game that it would be just good for college basketball. It would be good for the Big Ten Conference. It was something I was super hyped about earlier in the year. I can't wait to see Kylan Boswell against Braden Smith. I think Kylan's defense has been overlooked a lot. If you're not an Illinois fan, if you're an Illinois fan, you're recognizing it, you're seeing it on a game-by-game basis. But I think Kylan had a rough stretch, a cold stretch defensively for, I guess, about 3 weeks or so. So I think the attention went away, but the job he's done over the past 3 or 4 games has been right back to what he was doing early in the year. Early in the year, he was having other All-American guards like Mark Sears just check themselves out because they're like, hey, I can't do anything against this guy. Braden Smith is different. Braden Smith, his mentality is of a killer, right? I mean, let's be honest, he's not going to play at the next level. He's just not big enough and he's not athletic enough. So for Braden Smith, this is his career. This college career, he's going to be here 4 years, and he makes the most of it because he knows he's not going to be playing professionally anywhere else. And so he's going to come into this game because he knows he owns Illinois. And if you watch Purdue, if you watch Braden, he has a moxie. He has a sense of confidence in every game. He truly does believe he's the best player on the court every game because more often than not, he is the best player on the court every game. But that doesn't have to be the case on Friday. I truly do hope that we can see the Kasparis game that we honestly haven't seen in a very long time at this point. I mean, I'm trying to think back to the last time we're all really just wowed by KJ. A guy who is going to be a top 10 pick still. And again, just because I'm showing less confidence or talking about how I'm a little more down on KJ over the past month and a half doesn't mean that I've changed my mind on that. He's still going to be a top 10 NBA talent or NBA draft talent, but I want to see the definitive, like, hey, I'm KJ, I'm Kasparis. Some people are, believe it or not, some people are like leaving him off the all freshman team, which I think is insane. He's thrown 15, 5, and 5 numbers, and it's because of him kind of falling off as of late. So I'm hoping the last game of the season is just Kasparis. Let's just see, 18 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, be one of the most important players on the court, which will kind of let Illinois fans feel much better going into the Big Ten tournament, going into March Madness. If as good as Will Riley's been playing, as good as Kylan Boswell has been playing, as good as Trey White has been playing, this team will only go as far as Kasparis Jakucionis will take it. I mean, there's a chance that he's just going to wake up on day 1 of March Madness and be the KJ that we're used to. Sure. But all I'm saying is I'd feel a little bit more confident if he kind of showed us what he's capable of doing Friday night, because the atmosphere is going to be there. The environment's going to be there. It's going to feel like a March Madness game. As of this recording, we don't know whether Morez Johnson is going to be playing. I'm going to assume not, but who knows? A lot of these players have made some miraculous recoveries this season. I didn't think Avicic would be back as quick as he was, but let's go with the assumption that Morez is not playing. Can Illinois continue to attack not just the basket, but the basket in the sense when shots are up? Because if they out-rebound Purdue, who really isn't that great of a rebounding team, the way they did against Michigan, I'm going to feel really good about this basketball game. I think if this team can get themselves second and third shots, then just by the sheer quantity of three-pointers that Illinois does tend to shoot, that I think Illinois can come out on top. Is that the new strategy moving forward? Can Trey White get his, maybe not 19 and 11, but can he get 15 and 8? Can Kylan Boswell, who, if I'm Brad Underwood, I'm telling Kylan, hey, look, whatever you can contribute on the offensive side, fine, but save your energy for Braden, because I don't think Purdue can beat Illinois with a bad Braden game. I do think Illinois can beat Purdue with a bad KJ game. I think Illinois can beat Purdue with a bad Will Riley game. But I do think that Purdue's game script is going to revolve around Braden Smith having one of his best games of the season. TKR, he's going to do his damage down low. Him and Tommy might just kind of negate each other. But again, Tommy just doesn't like to mess with big guys down low. He's, for being 7'1", 260 pounds, he's not a guy who likes to play bully ball. That's kind of where you miss Morez Johnson. I would love to see a Morez Johnson versus TKR matchup. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think this is, just like I said in the preview of the Michigan game, I want Brad Underwood to force Purdue to play Illinois ball. And that's with 5 guys flying around the court and all attacking the rim every time a shot is up. Because I don't think, this is not an I don't think, this is a statement. Purdue is certainly not as athletic as the guys wearing orange and blue are going to be. And so I think you need to kind of take advantage of that athleticism. Lawyer, he's shooting, I believe, 48% from three-point land. That's going to be a concern. Who gets that assignment? Is it going to be Kasparis? Are they going to be switching? They haven't been switching a lot as of late, so I'm not expecting that. But the point of what I'm trying to say is usually Illinois always has the more talented top 2, top 3 guys against Purdue. That's certainly not going to be the case. I think Braden Smith is probably the number 1, KJ number 2, TKR number 3, and then maybe Lawyer number 4. Hopefully we have a good Will Riley game where he can jump up to that level. But the key for Illinois is I think Illinois is much deeper from 4 to 8. Now, whether that's going to factor in, I don't know, because the way I think about it, Friday, primetime, night game, rivalry game, the atmosphere is going to be crazy. I really think that this game is going to come down to the stars. And I think this game is going to come down to Braden Smith against Kasparis Jakucionis. And if I'm going to be honest with you guys, which I always try to be, I have more confidence that Braden Smith is going to have a good game than I am Kasparis. I hope to be wrong, but again, a loss against Purdue, all of a sudden we do have to win a game or 2 in that Big Ten tournament in order to avoid that 8-9 seed. But despite what this means for the NCAA tournament or the Big Ten tournament or the seeding or anything, I just want Illinois to beat Purdue. I just need to get them to get over this hump. And, this is the only game of the season between the two. So it's not like if Illinois loses to Purdue that they'll have a return matchup to be able to take advantage of later in the season. No, unless they meet in the Big Ten tournament. But again, you don't want to count on that. I think Illinois, now that Zach Edey's gone, and Illinois is kind of going in their own direction with a complete new set of roster, let's just reset the rivalry. And I believe it also starts Friday night. If I'm going to be honest with you, I think Purdue prevails, but I do have faith that, we might see another Will Riley game, another KJ game. I hope I'm wrong, but either way, make sure you guys are tuned into this channel right after the game. Again, I'm going to go live, and we're going to hopefully celebrate together. And hopefully you can all in the chat say, Sonny, you were wrong. Illinois blew them up by 20-plus points again. How nice would that be? Illinois got their last 2 victories with 20-plus points over conference foes. Let's do it 3 times in a row. How about that? All right, I'll see you guys Friday night. Until then, ILL. Love you guys.